Hello and welcome to Living with Intention Live. I am April Wyatt and I am so excited for this conversation. I'm always excited about all my conversations, but especially this one. As I always say, we need to place our attention on our intention. And my two guests are amazing at really recognizing that gap, right? The space between the intention and action. And they'll help us unpack this because really there's something that happens in between our intention. Like we really say, today's the day I'm going to start X. But then we get through the day and life happens, right? Meetings run long. We get an unexpected email. Something happens with our family. And some things happen that is unexpected. And as the day moves on, then we're wondering how we ended up at the end of the day, where we're at, and where did that intention go? It's so important. And I recognize that too as I work with my clients, sitting with people who already know what they want. They're very thoughtful, very committed to their growth, and they're invested in themselves, but they just are missing, right? There's that gap. And that same question is basically, if I already know what I want, what's getting in the way? How come this cycle keeps happening? So that's the question that we're going to bring forward together as our guest, Eric Zajac, say his name 5 times fast, approaches it through the lens of subconscious beliefs, exploring how internal programming quietly influences the choices we make before we're even aware of it. And also Dr. Shane examines that same space, but through neuroscience, helping us to understand how behavior becomes encoded and why information just by itself rarely changes the way we take actions. So they both have different perspectives, but they share the same curiosity of what is happening there, that bridges between the intention and the action. And so to me, that question reaches far beyond what really our mind can grasp, because that gap really does influence our relationships, our health, the promises that we make to ourselves daily, and the direction in our lives. And that's what this conversation brings forward also in my Bali retreat. I say, we have to pause in order to rise above the noise. And so this Saturday, I'm actually having a Taste of Bali event. And it is actually on this channel or LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So please follow me or follow the event. And that way you can get a feel for what we're going to explore in Bali. We're going to experience an introductory breathwork session that's based on the biodynamic breathwork and trauma release system. And people really do leave saying, I didn't realize how much I was holding or how much I was carrying, or I wasn't aware of the tensions that I was holding in my body. So this really gives you an experience of why Bali is, of course, a beautiful space, but also giving you space for yourself to explore a little more. So that is this Saturday. You can see the times there. And if you're curious about my Bali retreat, here is the link, livingwithintention.co/Bali. to get more information there if that's something that you would like to explore with me. And I do have just a few spots left. So Antonia Andrews and I will be hosting that Taste of Bali this Saturday. And another thing that I get to do, this is why I love my job, my work, my experiences, is co-hosting actually with EcoSam, and it's the Kindness Worldwide meditation. And so that is this Sunday, and it is the same times. It's 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can register through the link below, and that's through EcoSam's website. And this is a beautiful space to come together to set our intention for expanding kindness. And who doesn't want more kindness, really? We are the ripple effect. And so as you'll discover today, you know, where your attention is, energy goes. And how do you want to experience more in your life? So join us for that. DM me if you have any other questions. And this is just a beautiful community also of support. And speaking of community, this is Mike Asherbranner in the Hounds of Business community, whom Eric and Dr. Shane and myself are all members of. And Mike's about, as it says, trust first, right? Building that community through trust, warm leads, warm introductions, getting in front of people that you normally wouldn't, because people know you. They lean in, they want to just support, and it's reciprocal. As you give, you also receive in this community. So Mike is in the audience. Thank you for being here, Mike, and the other hound showing up today. And another hound based community is I Am Magazine with Jennifer Thompson. And she and her sister, Yarida Gonzalez, have formed this I Am Magazine. They have both men and women's division, and also publish in Spanish as well. So it's truly international. They have over 100,000 subscribers, and it's just a beautiful community to highlight people's stories. So if you're curious about wanting to be featured in their magazine, or even about Jennifer and Yarida, please reach out to them on I Am Magazine, as they are an amazing support. And I really appreciate everything that they've done for me and Mike and the Hounds of Business community. Yes. And so speaking of people and appreciation, I just want to get this show started. So let's bring up Dr. Shane and Eric. Hello, welcome, friends. Welcome into Living with Intention Live.
Hi, April. Thank you for having me.
April, and hi, viewers. Great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, April.
Yes, of course, of course. I mean, when I met you both and understanding what you both do, as I am fascinated by neuroscience, I'm fascinated of how our minds work, and also somatically what's happening in the body. It just seemed like a natural fit to bring both of you together to be highlighted on this live, because more people need to know what's going on, right? We all have experienced this gap. And so that's what I'd love to bring is the question that's guiding this conversation from the very beginning. So when somebody really says, I know exactly what I want to do, so why is it following through so challenging for me, right? It's just, there just seems to be a block, or something keeps getting in the way of me obtaining what I want, whether it is career-wise, business, or even personal, right? In our personal lives, things just keep coming up and getting in the way, or they seem to get forward a little bit, like 2 steps forward and then 10 steps back. right? So, who would like to speak to that? Where do you believe that space between intention and action begins? Where is that gap?
I'll start if you don't mind, Shane.
So go ahead.
Sure. So what I found through working with my clients when they've got a block, right? You mentioned it as there, April, about block, right? The intuition is just that. There's a subconscious limitation somewhere that's keeping you from where it is you are and where it is you want to be. There's nothing to be judged about that. We all have limitations. We inherit a lot of them from our parents. Some of them could be the stories you tell yourself. Some people might say to themselves, money's hard to make. Or maybe to someone who's struggling with their health is, I'll never get better. So when you start telling that story over and over and over again, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. More than 90% of those thoughts are the thoughts from the day before. So we're consistently not just reprogramming, but hardening that program to get exactly what it is that's in that subconscious.
Exactly. I can speak to myself about, programming from childhood and just noticing how that kind of comes up, it kind of bumps up against what I'm wanting. And it feels very real, right? It even somatically in the body, like there's some pressure or some holding there. Yeah. How do you speak to that for the question, Dr. Shane? I kind of twisted it a little bit, but.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I want to say to the audience, is that if you have that intention, hold on to it, because there's a reason that you have it, right? I believe that God, the creator, whatever, would not allow you to have that, and also the ability to be able to achieve it. So the gap, the space, really, what I have found in my work is, just as Eric had said, some what people typically call sabotage and limiting beliefs, right? And the reason why I say that is that words are very, very important. And what I found is that how you think about it, it's also going to impact how you deal with it, right? And it's essentially, as Eric said, it's beliefs that you have at an unconscious level that you're not aware of. But I like to phrase it a little bit differently from what everybody else uses. People say limiting beliefs and sabotage. And when you think about it, you would want to get rid of a sabotage. You'd want to get rid of something that is limiting. But I caution people with phrasing it in that way, because of all the years that I've been doing that. I know that, as counterintuitive as this sounds, those beliefs are really protective beliefs. And you may not always want to get rid of something that is trying to protect you. So there's no part of you that is trying to limit you. There's no part of you that is trying to sabotage you. There's a part of you that is protecting you. And yes, it does lead to limitation. It does lead to that freeze. But I want us to think about it in a way that is going to serve us, because here's what we still need: that protection, maybe in a different way, maybe toned down a little bit as we move forward. So we don't really want to get rid of all of them. I'll talk a little bit about it as we go on into the conversation. But I believe that gap, exactly as Eric said, is these beliefs that we develop through the experiences that we'd have had in our lives. And April, you mentioned childhood. So we have to understand that when those experiences were happening, we did not always have the capacity to process it in a positive way. And we start to believe things about ourselves. Those are the most powerful ones that actually form that space and that gap. And then it goes down one more level from beliefs, what I call, the nervous system level. You call it the somatic level, but it's really a physiological barrier from executing. You know what you need to do, you know what your intentions are, but you just sort of freeze is the word.
Exactly. And I really appreciate you saying that, Dr. Shane, about recognizing it as being a protection, that there's nothing wrong with you. I think it's really important for everybody to hear that, because there's a lot of shame, or it's just a lot of pressure we put on ourselves of not being able to accomplish something, or why am I still here? I want so much to be over there. And no matter what I do, I've heard this so many times, even in my own, even in my own thought processes, and just recognizing it as, oh, I call it an echo too. These echoes are coming back. And if anybody's experienced an echo, really, when you have an echo come in, it's very loud, like the first reverberation of an echo. It sounds like it's right here next to you. And so our mind and our bodies believe it to be true. It's so loud and forceful that it's like, oh, yes, that's true. And then guess what? Another thought will come in to validate it. And then that keeps us kind of keeping in that loop of those ruminating thoughts, as Eric was talking about, having the same thoughts as we did before yesterday about ourselves, about situations. And when we can see it as an echo of just this coming up, and recognizing it as, oh, okay, I hear that again. And then being curious about it. And I think that's also helps to kind of bridge the gap there. Just being curious of, oh, that this reminds me of a time when this happened. And, it's not happening today. It's not happening in real time. So why does this keep coming up for me? And this echo is asking to be witnessed. Because whatever we resist persists. If we push it in the closet, lock it in there, and think, nope, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to see it, then it's just going to be there waiting, right? And then that piles up, and then we have some explosions, or even really decompression, hypo, right, with the nervous system shut down and all that. So yes, I love the way we're going with this conversation, and being curious. I always say it's important to be curious about what we're thinking, how we're feeling, and any emotions that come up with that. And it's really important, because a lot of times, as you said, Dr. Shane, the shutdown or the freeze, that was the protection. I don't want to feel this, or it's not safe. Usually in younger years, that's what comes up. And then, so us being curious and open to what's showing up for us, that's when we kind of crack the door. The echoes don't have the answers, but they have the key to unlock that door. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? About how you work with clients and bridging that gap? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm loving the analogy you gave with the closet. The analogy I like to give, though, is a beach ball, and a beach ball that's being held underneath the water, right? Those emotions, those events that happen in your life, the meanings you gave to those events that you're not processing right now, if you put it into a closet, you can ignore the closet. But if you're holding that beach ball underwater, it takes physical energy, right? It takes emotional energy to keep that beach ball underneath the water. And then as you add more and more repressed things and you keep repressing, think of now you're pushing down. Like I'm getting the thought of like going into Kmart when I was growing up, and they had that big stack of play balls, but it's like you're pushing all those, and think of the energy that takes. Now, eventually, those things are coming up, and they have to, right? And what I do tell my clients is, by the time we're done working together, you're going to thank those things for coming up because they're just opportunities, right? You get some contrast in your life, and it's just like, ooh, like you said, you come in with that non-judgmental curiosity of, ooh, what's this? And then you learn like, oh, this is just a part of me that's just asking for some love, right? It hasn't gotten attention. You've taken it and you've shoved it underneath the water for all these years. Something happened in your life that made your subconscious bring that back up. And this is just that opportunity to take that part, give it love, and integrate that in with the whole you now.
I love that beach ball analogy because it does create more pressure of holding and keeping, and it costs us more energy mentally, and that affects us physically too, the physiological aspects of holding all of that.
But the best part is like once you let that beach ball up, that energy that you've been spending decades holding it down with now becomes available to you, right? When that root problem has been released, all that energy from pushing and holding comes to you in your daily life.
Yeah, it really opens us up. It is so true that as we try and keep those things away, it's really costing us in the long run, because that's energy that we could repurpose in our lives, and it's freedom, it's lightness, and that it's a beautiful thing to witness, even if we do have to go in those spaces to witness it for what it is. And that's kind of scary, and that's why I'm so grateful that you two are here to also guide people through that. We need safe people. We need people who have been there and have done the work. And it's so important. And Dr. Shane.
Yeah, I want to start off. I know you asked how we deal with our clients, but I want to share a couple of things for people who are not clients, just looking on what you can do in your life right now. And that echo that April spoke about is very, very important, because what I've learned over the years is that the moment that you have that intention, that echo comes up. And it's very, very useful, I tell people, and most people just let it go by, but it's very, very useful because it's that protection doing its job. So the moment that you have an intention that takes you beyond where you are right now, which is what most people's intentions, it suddenly becomes unfamiliar to the unconscious mind, and it doesn't like that. So it pops up those echoes. So it's doing its job. And that's very, very useful because, instead of as I said, if you get this, you may not always need a coach, because as soon as you think that intention, those limiters and saboteurs are going to pop up. And you can write them down and you know what they are. So the other half of what you said, April, of what you resist persists, is that whatever you befriend transcends. So at first,
say that again.
Whatever you befriend transcends. That's the other half of whatever you resist persists. But whatever you befriend transcends. And early on, how I used to treat with it was that I hear the echo and I say, thank you. I know why you're there. I know that you're trying to protect me, but I got it now. I got it. I'm in control here, no longer you. Okay, so that's one way I dealt with the echo, one way that you could deal with it, because you understand what its role and function is to protect you, and you understand it and you see what it's trying to do for you, and you say, thank you, I got this now, because now you can see what it's trying to do, and you can see easily, a lot of them, what the counter beliefs are, so to speak. And you begin to take action based on those counter beliefs. What's going to happen now is that when you take that action and you realize that, okay, it's the first time I'm taking that action, it's a different action, but I'm safe. That is really, really important. That point in time, and when I work with clients, I make sure to really live in that moment for a little while, because what that does, it says to the nervous system, it is now safe to take that action. And that's such a pivotal point in coaching. When you hear the echo, you understand what it's trying to do, take the opposite action regardless of what the echo is saying, but sit for a moment and just communicate with your nervous system so that it understands, okay, I did something that you thought was going to be unsafe. I did it. Here I am, safe. So now you've wired that into the system that it is now safe to take this particular action.
That is so true. I say to lean in and listen. You listen, because that's part of us, as you both shared, right? This is I think a lot of people think that that's the ugly part, or there's some shame or guilt or whatever is tied to it. But when we can really lean in and listen to what it's really asking for, such as love, compassion, acceptance, and holding that safety is very important. As you said, Dr. Shane, that's the nervous system. It automatically just kind of settles a little, and you might not see rainbows and unicorns right away, but it's just melting those tensions, melting that pressure, as Eric was saying, the beach ball effect, letting that come up, letting it just be seen and witnessed for what it is. So we don't have that pressure. We don't have to hold it and feel that somatically in our bodies as well. Yeah, this is good stuff. We're getting some amazing people in here saying hello and really enjoying the conversation. So thank you all for coming in, whether you're here live now with us or watching the replay. We appreciate you being here. And please put some questions in the comments. If you have any questions for Eric or Dr. Shane, put those in there, because this is what we're here for. We're here to offer you support, so that way you can start to move forward and in those actions in a safe space and not push, right? There's a difference, isn't there, Eric? When people are saying, I don't want to be here, but I want to be over there, and then they start pushing themselves. What happens in that space? I'm just curious of your thoughts or your experiences with that.
Yeah, think of the energy of push, right? I'm physically trying to push this thing up a hill. What if you got yourself aligned with what it is that you want, and then remove the resistance between where you are and that thing that it is that you want, and then just let the natural flow of life, very wu-wei kind of concept, of just pull you forward. Right now, you're not using your energy, you're using the energy of the tide to pull you to where you want to be. You're just removing resistance, right? The whole thing with transformation, right? And not to lose the context Dr. Shane brought up about, these are protective pieces of us. We form them for a reason. they helped us at one point in our life. They just may not be as helpful anymore. So that forms that resistance between where it is you are and where it is you want to be.
Yes.
And then the excavation is taking that resistance and transforming it into something useful that's going to move us towards our goal.
Yes. And can you just give us a little insight to how you would work with a client that's saying, Eric, I've tried all these things and I keep feeling like I'm moving forward, and yet I find myself right back where I'm at.
Yep.
What would kind of a step process you would work with them on that?
First is I'm very cued into the language someone's using, right? They're describing the world they're living in through the words that they're using, right? So I'm listening for the lies that might be coming up in there, right? I've got a toolbox of, I use mindset coaching, I use hypnosis, and as well as subconscious freedom based upon, what's happening for that client at that time. But something like what you're describing here, like where there's a part that just not letting go, hypnosis lends very, very well, where we go into that nice, relaxed state that people think about when they're in hypnosis. And you and I are just having a conversation with your eyes closed when you're in hypnosis. And then from there, we introduce that part of you out so you can understand and have a conversation with it. What is it that made you, what made you in my life? What is it you're trying to protect me from? Right? When in my life did you come into being? And then from there, once you have that understanding and rapport with the part, it becomes a conversation of, you've been doing so good at getting me in my life to where I am right now, and I could see everything it is that you're doing. What if you helped me with getting to the desire that I have now? Think about how much more powerful that is. And then the integration is you invite that part in. Maybe it's into your heart if that feels right. You invite it in, and then you come out of that hypnosis with that energy of, oh man, I don't have that part working against me anymore. I've got a partner moving me forward. Got a little technical in the weeds here.
No, that's perfect. And I love how you see it as a partner, as that's what Dr. Shane was also alluding to too, not turning it away or, pushing.
Right.
Pushing against it. We really have to pause. And I know that less is more when we're talking about this.
Yeah.
We don't need more pushing or, working with Eric and Dr. Shane. There's a little more of that, but it's more of getting back to you. It's not the extra outside things to keep doing, keep studying, keep jumping through the hoops. That's kind of the pushing. It's more of, okay, let's pause. Let's see what's happening internally. Let's see how you have those natural resources within you. We all have the power and the capacity to shift. It's just being able to have a guide such as both of you to point out these different aspects to where we can see it in a different light. And I say, shift the script, as Dr. Shane was getting to. So yes, Dr. Shane, I know that you have some wise wisdom to share about what that looks like for you working with clients or a person. You kind of alluded to that earlier. What are those steps?
Sure. I mean, Eric did a great job to explain what are the steps that I would use. We call it parts integration. So that's how we deal with resistance, would be to say that there's this part of me that is protecting me, and very, very important for that concept of protection, because you won't want to get rid of something that is going to protect you. You want to keep it and integrate it. So what we do is that we'd ask that part, what is its positive intent, what it's trying to do. And we'll get those answers, as you said, in those quiet moments. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? And then we could ask it, can you still continue to do what you're doing, but don't prevent me from doing that particular thing? And as a matter of fact, can you support me in doing this particular thing? And that is really, really game changing. So as a part of, instead of rather of getting rid of the sabotage and getting rid of the limiting beliefs, if we really integrate it into what we are trying to achieve, it's a lot more powerful. So in addition to that, one of the things that I've found is to go a little bit deeper first and to elicit the values with respect to the intention. So whatever that intention is, I ask people, so okay, if you achieve that intention, what is that going to do for you? And you, from that very, very important exercise is to get people's, we call it values elicitation, elicit the values, because it's really values and identity level values that drive behavior. And here's the thing interesting that I found, April, is the thing that people think that they need, they already have it.
Yes.
Because you won't think about needing it if you don't have it. So one of the very, very powerful exercises that we do, and this could happen in very, very short space of time, is to figure out what we call their structure of certainty. And everyone has a structure of certainty. And one of the simple questions that we ask, two questions, but do you believe that the sun is rising tomorrow? Okay, and wherever they look in the visual space would tell you that. Or another way that we ask this is, what is a quality that you have, that you're certain that you have and you like about yourself? Okay, and what's going to come up, and then you say, how do you know? And then all of the previous experiences of that cause them to have that belief is going to come up. Some people it's very visual, some people it's a collage, some people it's one behind the other, some people has sound, some don't have sound. Yes, I worked with a client. It was a lot of movies with sound, and there was even kinesthetic. And every individual has a structure of certainty in there. And then when you want the thing that they want to have in order to bridge the gap between the intention and the action, you could usually find that when they think about that, it's in a different structure. That makes sense. And if you snap it into that structure of certainty, you don't need willpower. You don't need discipline. You don't have to have that force to overcome everything, because think about it. The things that you are certain about, the qualities and the values that you have, you don't need to work hard on it. It just comes natural. Okay. And if you snap the things that you want into that structure of certainty, it changes at a neurological level. And surprisingly, you don't actually need to work hard at it and to remember to do it. It's wired into certainty at the same time. And a couple of weeks ago, I did a webinar, and there was someone who, I like to do live demonstrations so that people, see what's actually happening, see the transformation in front of their eyes. And there was something that she thought that she was certain about. And then, during the exercise, she realized that her absolute certainty was here, and the thing that she was thinking about was over here. And wow, it was a gap that she didn't realize that she had. So that's another technique, strategy in terms of overcoming the resistance, including it, and also moving forward with a great sense of certainty.
Yeah, it's important to be able to witness that gap and see it for what it is. What we think we need or what we're asking for is most likely completely different than what it really is. And I love that. I think I saw that. It was a clip, right? You had a clip on LinkedIn and it showed her. Yeah, I commented on that. It was fascinating. I do have a question here from Christy. She asks, how do we let a friend know they are safe to share their feelings? How would you approach that? Eric, can we start with you?
One, it's just being a trusting friend. One, two is making the space available, right? Maybe your friend doesn't want to share their feelings, and that's okay too. So sometimes just ask. Maybe they're complaining and maybe they just have a vent on their chest and that's all they need at that time. But then you can always ask, well, would you like to share more about this? And they'll tell you right away, and you can see it right in their body of, if they're resisting, it's like they're not in that place right now, and that's okay. People don't need to be in that place all the time.
Yes, that's very well said. Thank you for that wise advice, Eric. And Dr. Shane, what advice do you have for Christy or anyone else who might have someone in their lives that, they want to be there for them and let the other person know that it's safe for them to share their feelings?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with what you do and your relation with them before you come to that point in time, because the safety may not be only at a point in time, but when they look at how you interacted with them over a period of time. So that, very, very important that whatever they would have shared with you in the past, they don't hear it by someone else coming from you. So I think that's really, really important. So the time and how you interacted with them before, really being non-judgmental about it is really important. Those are two important things. So that, especially that non-judgmental bit, it's very difficult because that's what our brain does. We like to attach a meaning to it. We'd like to even offer advice. So I would say don't offer advice, because especially if you're not equipped with it, even sometimes people who think that they're equipped to deal with it may not be able to deal with it, because to the untrained person, we love to be relatable and says, oh, I remember a time. And then the conversation shifts from them to you. And then some good advice. I did a post about this week about paraphrasing. So what I'm hearing you saying is this. And then what happens is that we take their experience, run it through our filters and feed it back to them. And their brain is actually saying, that's not what I said. Okay. So those are some things to avoid that will make people feel more welcome to share their stuff with you.
Yes, that's very important. Thank you so much, Christy, for asking that question. And anyone else has any questions for Eric or Dr. Shane, please put it in the chat. Facebook isn't coming through on my end. I apologize. I don't know what's happening there. It shows that it's being streamed there, but you can jump over to YouTube to Living with Intention, April Wyatt, and ask your questions there as well. So you said something very important, both of you, and it's really about safety, right? When we're working with other people or even supporting a friend. And also, I believe we have to find that safety in ourselves first. We have to set that point within ourselves instead of saying, I need to fix this person or I have to have the answer for them. I believe that we are mirrors of each other. And so when somebody is sharing something that kind of makes us uncomfortable, or we see that they're in pain, or they are really heavily processing something but not sharing with us, it's really important for us to pause and really find that safety support within us first, So that way we can be available when they're ready to share, because we can't force people to share their feelings. I've been with my husband for 40 years. You can't force your partner or somebody you truly care to really divulge all the information. Even though we feel that we have the capacity to hold that for them, they have to feel safe. But it really starts with us first, as we are mirrors of each other. Yeah. Oh, this is such a great conversation. I so appreciate everything that you both brought. And before we go into how do people connect with you, I want to just go a little deeper here. So when you are working with groups or clients, or even sharing on lives and things of what you do, your gifts and things, what benefits, what are you noticing that shifts within the person? What are they experiencing, whether it's thought-wise, physiologically? What are the benefits there?
Yeah, what I commonly see is you mentioned it before around freedom, right? This new sense of freedom of, oh my God, I've been carrying around this weight for decades. I don't have to carry this anymore, right? Think of like running a marathon with a 40-pound vest on, and at about mile 13, you just let it off. How are those next 13 miles going to be compared to the first 13? Right? I see it with my clients when they have that aha, like, oh my God, I feel lighter. Like they're tasting freedom for the first time in who knows how long.
Yeah, and that helps, I believe, this freedom, this lightness, this openness brings more, as you both talked about, more energy back to them. It helps alleviate brain fog, scattered thinking. It really helps people to dial in a little bit more of what they are, what their intentions are. They can see the path a little more clearly on that. And then because of that freedom and that knowing and trusting in themselves again, then they're more apt to take those next steps. Yeah. And you, Dr. Shane, what do you see in your clients or groups that you're supporting, the benefits?
Okay, but I want to ask a question before April. Do I have permission to go one step back with what you were talking about?
Oh,
just
please.
before I answer
We
that?
can do a do-si-do. We can sidestep.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that you made, and I want to re-emphasize it in terms of how we phrase it is that we go there first, where we want the clients to go, as you talk about the mirror neurons and that sort of thing. And that is really important because it's a little bugbear of mine in the entire industry where, the coaching, therapy, training, and certification, we pile on tools and frameworks on people, but we don't ensure that they first are able to do it on themselves. Can I have that? So the question that I asked, I basically do more, leadership coaching as well as personal coaching. But, can your coaching be sovereign if your nervous system isn't? Can your leadership be sovereign if your nervous system isn't? Can you deliver that first? Do you have the internal capacity to do that? And I think that's really, really important. And maybe the commercialization of coaching and therapy has caused people to miss that. So I'm making a very, powerful plug for the people in the industry to continue to work on yourselves. And, I wrote an article some years ago about, how to choose a coach. And one of the criteria I have in there is to ensure that they have one. Who's helping them with their blind spots, unless you think you're perfect. Okay, so I think that's a really powerful point, April, and I wanted to sort of expand and reinforce that as coaches, therapists, whatever we call ourselves, it's so important to work on ourselves, because the statistics, April, is actually showing that is a big challenge. So PricewaterhouseCoopers did a survey for ICF, and they surveyed over 10,000 coaches. Okay, and hold on to your chairs, because only 5% of them actually executed on tools that could bring about a change. With Marshall Goldsmith, there's something called collusion, where they hear the question, they hear the limiting belief that they need to challenge, but because of who it is and probably the status, that they don't actually ask the challenging question. And it's called collusion, where the coach ends up colluding with the person and there's no progress. It's a real challenge documented in our industry. So while you made that point, it's a huge point. I think probably one of the biggest points in terms of us really being able to help our clients. We have to go there first, so we need to prepare ourselves. So to answer your question now, it's
No, I appreciate that, Dr. Shane. Seriously, yes, it's very important for us to know who we are and see our own belief systems, and not to collude.
Yeah. Good stuff. And what I've seen over the years, I would say, if it's one word, it's happiness that people feel. Some people cry because of the happiness, being able to quickly overcome stuff. So in May was Mental Health Month, and I did some live workshops. I think every Thursday during May I did that. And there's one particular person, as I said, I love live demonstrations, not only talking about it, and literally, in 5 minutes, she was, crying, but it was a happy cry because we were able to rewire her anxiety to confidence. And Eric is familiar with the swish pattern, has been around for ages, but so highly effective, because we learned through neuroscience that we could tell the brain, not that, this, not that, this. And you do that 7 times, you could change any habit instantaneously. And the relief that people feel after years and years, some people 12 years. I've worked with someone suffering with social anxiety for 45 years, and to know that in one session that you could completely change, that is really exciting.
That is exciting. And it's because just seeing the transformation in real time, and the person and how you can't hide it. It just comes up. Yes. And that's the beautiful part of witnessing ourselves. And again, the safety and support is so needed. Making sure that whomever, and this is for everyone listening, of course, I highly recommend Eric and Dr. Shane, but it's really important for you to do your research. Find a coach that feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Have a Zoom call. Ask questions. Ask questions, because you're hiring them. It's not just trusting in them to make things go away. This is a partnership. This is a relationship. And so that's why when I work with my clients with the biodynamic breath work, it's so important that I hold that sanctuary of support, that I lean in and listen and follow their lead, listening to their words. I think Eric said, or Dr. Shane, I can't remember which one, but listening and leaning in and knowing that I don't have all the answers, but I am the scarecrow at the end of the yellow brick road, right? I can guide. We're just here to guide and explore together and be curious. That's where the magic happens. And we'll just skip to the Emerald City. Maybe you'll see a unicorn there, Timothy. He said, I was here for the unicorns, but yeah, that was fun. So people who are watching right now, how can they connect with you both? And thank you, Melissa, for being here, by the way. Dr. Shane, what is your contact information? I believe I have a banner here to share.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is one way. My name is very short. So another way is shaneram.com. Really as easy as that. And then you'll find my emails and socials. But other than what is on the screen, shaneram.com is where you could also find me. And while I have the stage, April, I want to add something. Again, it might be, I think it's all with really great intention. But since I learned about the power of words, the real power of words, and especially something called presuppositions, I tend to take the word safe out of my language. And I know what we're trying to accomplish, because if you say to them, here is safe, you're automatically presupposing to their brain that out there is unsafe, which is not what we might do. So I actually encourage people. I know it's a popular word. I know it's well-intentioned, but it could be sending everything that we say. The brain has to presuppose other things for that word to make sense.
Yes. So what do you suggest then instead of using safe?
Well, we know our intention is to create that, but we don't use the words. We create it by how we build rapport with them. First, feeling calm, comfortable, welcoming in ourselves, and the mirror neurons will make it happen. So we don't necessarily need to say the words, but intentionally do it. But the words carry meaning and presuppositions in them. So that's what I'd say. Create it by how you build rapport, how you first go there first in terms of welcoming, non-judgmental, listening, put yourself there, and then they will feel that energy.
Yes. And also they will discover it for themselves too, without you having to name it.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shane. Eric, how do people reach you, my friend?
Well, I am out on the web at www.easylivin.biz, livin.biz. My email is up on the screen now. It's eric@easylivin.biz. I'm out on LinkedIn. I'm on there quite often. Look forward to meeting with anyone. I've got a complimentary clarity call where we have that Zoom, April, where you're learning more about me and I'm learning more about you and how my services can help you find the freedom that you're looking for.
That's so important. Yes, I really, really do appreciate both of you, both of your time being here with me today. We had some great questions in the audience and people engaging. And so before we leave, what's just one takeaway message you would like our viewers to remember, or something that you offer? What's a takeaway message for them about bridging that gap between the intention and action, or something else?
Shane, would you like to go first?
Sure. I would say in that space, usually, April, what I've found through my experience is not necessarily something to add, but more to take away, which I think a lot of people are thinking, I need another program, I need another book, I need another whatever it is. But yes, that might be true, but not necessarily adding something, because it's really about finding out what might be the things that are hidden. Because Carl Jung said that unless you make the unconscious conscious, you'll go through life and call it fate. And I think that is so powerful, because, you know, when we say call it fate, it might mean that we have an intention and we're not getting the results, and we might say, well, maybe that's how it's supposed to be, and we call that fate. But as he said, you know, very, very critical, unless you find, unless you make the unconscious conscious. And I think that's a really, really important point, to go back where we started in the conversation of what's really in that space. It's a bunch of unconscious beliefs. And that's the key, you know, most important key. There may be others.
Yes, those unconscious bullies, but we want to befriend them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And know that this is just learning more about ourselves. That's what it's all about. So thank you so much, Eric and Dr. Shane, for being here. I appreciate you both. And please reach out to Eric or Dr. Shane if you have any questions. Connect with them. They are amazing people. If you're curious about the Hounds of Business, reach out to me or Mike Asherbranner, and we would be happy to give you more information there too. And I appreciate everyone who showed up today and tuned in and listened, and really discovering more about you, because that's all we're doing here. That's really, when it comes down to it, we're just discovering more about ourselves. And then that takes the pressure off too. So thank you again, my friends. And until next time, be well.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, and thanks, audience.
Yeah, thank you.